Hey guys, Muncheez here, and today we're going to go over Brelshaza Gate 3, and I'm going to go over hard as a baseline, and then I'll split the differences between the two, as always, between hard and normal. So there's 4 key core mechanics, which are the main mechanics of the fight. So I'm going to go over those, and then we're going to go over some of the attack patterns that are pretty dangerous to the raid as a whole. So this gate, before you go in, excuse the slow-mo immediately off the boat, but I gotta go over some things before we actually head in there. So you want to read your party names. So it'll be split in one party. So for example, our party 1 is green, green, white, white. So player 1 and 2 will be partnered up as green, green, and players 3 and 4 will be partnered up on white, white. And this will make sense when you get into the map. So Party 2 will be split up as blue, blue, red, red. Sometimes it's blue, blue, purple, purple, depending on whoever sets up the raid group. If you're running the raid group, the way that it makes sense to me the most is Party 1, the colors of Party 1 are green and white. So you can always just remember Party 1, green, green, white, white. And then Party 2 is purple, and blue and red together make purple. So if you ever are confused at which ones are like that, and this is like the most widely used one. Usually you'll get some oddballs here and there, but this is generally like the golden staple for when you're setting up this raid. So that's why it's very important to read your party names if you're doing this in a pug or whatnot. When you go in, you don't get confused, and you can also kindly remind everyone, be like, hey, read your party names, yada yada. And you also want to organize in your party chat for the yellow mechanic. So there's going to be 3 mechanics, blue, red, and yellow. So you have to organize for blue via the party names, and then for yellow, you're going to have 2 people staggering, 1 guy breaking, and 1 guy catching. As far as items go, whirlwind grenades are good. Time stops or atropine are also good. If you are very confident, you can run atropines, and it can help you push the boss to a next phase if you so choose. And cloaks are helpful from time to time to assist with the running, because sometimes you have to run pretty far and pretty fast. Alright, so we're going to go over some things real quick. So as soon as you walk in, he's going to pick a color, but from every color change here on out, he's going to have safe spots when he changes colors. So the blue is going to be the far ring parallel to the sides, the red is going to be the corners, make sure you don't stand too close, and the yellow is going to be the middle of the sides close to the boss. And in hard mode, you will have a pattern as well, and you just make sure you stay mobile and avoid the blue and red AoEs on the ground. Okay, so first we're going to go over the blue pattern. So as you can see, the boss changes color to blue, and the safe spot you want to be in is going to be on the outer ring parallel to the boss's sides. So once the explosion goes off, in hard mode, you're going to have to gather up. In normal mode, you can just go and DPS the boss after this. So in hard mode, as you can see, someone pinged. So what you're going to want to do is gather up, and when you gather up, you're going to have all this fire AoE drop in on you, and the timing for this to get out is as soon as the lasers disappear from over everyone's head. So these shapes are going to come out, he's going to do lasers of some sort, and just stand in a safe spot. And as soon as these lasers disappear, you can just feel free to walk out. There's plenty of time just to click and walk away. You can spacebar to be extra safe if you want, but you can just walk out. Now for the main blue mechanic itself, this is the party color and number coordination. So if you are green, green, white, white, then you go to your green or you go to white. Even if you're grouped in the opposite side of the map from your color, just make sure you head straight to your cube. As long as there's no dilly-dallying around, you'll be fine. And if you are nervous about the stagger, you can throw a whirlwind to be extra safe if you'd like. So you find your buddy and you go to your square assigned to your party number and you stagger the cube. And in hard mode, you have to stay within the dome. You can't leave. So in hard mode, the dome will form. Some AoEs will form on the ground. Just simply walk out of it. And you wait, and if you have any AoE you can drop on the ground or anything like that before the stun actually goes off, it helps to drop it because it can assist in breaking the other person out, so you don't have to break out as much when you get out of the typing test. So one person will have a typing test and one person will be imprisoned. So if you are doing the typing test, you are going to have to break the person out of the imprison. And in normal mode, after you stagger your cube, all you do is get your shield from your cube and then you run to your other party members. So if you are blue, blue, red, red, for example, and you are doing the blue square, you would just run to your red counterparts and you would be grouped as 4, doing the typing test and the imprisoned breaking. Okay, so now onto the red pattern. So when he changes color to red, the corners are going to be safe. So as you can see, he just turned red. You want to be at the corners. Make sure you don't stand too close to the boss because sometimes the lasers will hit you. And if you are a Reaper, do not use Nightmare here. Just don't touch it. I've died once or twice before just trying to be fancy and just don't do it. But the corners are safe here, and actually the further you are away, the wider the arc is. So just stand a reasonable distance away at the corners and you'll be fine. So in hard mode, the follow-up mechanic for the red color change is he drops a ring of like just golden yellow orbs, and they will all start heading towards the boss. And it's important to note every time he does these follow-ups, he does an attack with it. So as you can see, he does the cross laser. So depending on what pattern he does, it makes them easier or harder to pick up. The cross laser is actually one of the easier ones to get around. So don't let any of these reach the boss, because if any of these reach the boss, he gets a stack of like a buff, and if he gets too many of these buff stacks, you can wipe the raid. So make sure none of them touch him, and after you pick them all up, you'll be fine. Now, when the red mechanic starts, the first thing you want to do is look for a safe spot. So there'll be a safe spot in front of the boss. So you can't see it because I'm at the back of the boss right now, but it's over there. Trust me, as you can see, someone kind of ran over there, but now you can kind of see it. So the first person has to grab it upon color change. And in hard mode, you'll have like these rings that pop up and pulse on the ground. Don't get hit by them. They knock you up in the air for like an insane amount of time. On normal mode, you won't have to deal with these rings at all. So it's very easy on normal. And you have to have at least 6 people alive for this to do this, because you need 6 people inside of the dome. So the way this mechanic works is you're going to stagger him 3 times total. And every time after you stagger, you're going to have to pick up these buffs on the ground. They're little diamonds. As you can see, one just spawned to the left over here. So the first one that spawns, there'll just be 1, and that person grabs it, and you're going to make your way to the dome that is the front of the boss. Now, if you have a lot of stagger, it does help your team to stay out, because sometimes the stagger window does get really tight because the red AoE kind of pushes you away from him. But you just repeat this process 3 times in a row, and just make sure you have coverage around the boss so you can pick up the buffs quickly. And once you pick up all the buffs and you finish staggering them for the 3rd time, the last set will spawn. Those last 2 guys run in, and you need 6 people alive. So there should be 6 people inside of the dome. And if you did it correctly, you'll take no damage from this laser and you'll be able to continue the fight. Now, the yellow one is the most in-depth one. So just make it a practice to do this on the color change. So when he changes colors to yellow, find one of his 4 sides, so the long side of the boss, and just stay right in the middle of the side as best as you can. And in normal mode, you have a lot more space to work with, and the orbs that the diamonds shoot out are much less dangerous. So just stand in the middle, and as you can see, this right diamond that's on your right side, it's going to, I kind of use it as a timer. So there's explosions happening around in hard mode. So once it shoots the one that's heading towards you, get away from the boss here, because this is when the outside of the ring becomes safe. I actually make a mistake and leave a little too quick because I spacebarred out. I could have just ran out and I wouldn't have hit that orb. So what you want to do here is watch for these lines. When these lines come out, find a safe spot, because he's going to do an attack with it. So as you can see, I put myself in a very small safe spot. But it's important to just remember to just be patient here. Once the lines come out, if you get hit by this fire, you'll get feared. So it has the same effect as the wall. You can spacebar through them and avoid the fear, but I tend to like to save spacebar for the wall in case I need to get to the other side of the wall to avoid a mechanic. So before you entered the gate, for the yellow mechanic, you had people call out, you know, I'm going to break, and then you have 2 people stagger, and you have 1 guy catching. So if you're breaking, the ball always spawns on blue and on green. So regardless of what party number you are, if you're breaking, you have to be on blue or green, depending on which party you're in. So what you want to do is break the ball immediately, save a heavy hitting move for it if you must, before the mechanic goes off. And if you're catching, take note of where the ball is in line with the boss, because you're going to want to stand directly on top of the boss and in line with the yellow orb. So this is the way it was explained to me. Someone did the exact same thing for me. So the first thing you do is you break the ball, you get the buff, you get away, and you collect purple orbs. The next thing is the catcher stands next to the boss in line with the orb, and you catch a circle on the ground, and once you get the buff, you spacebar out, and you do the same thing that the guy that broke the ball does, but on the opposite side. So if he went to the right, you go to the left, and you collect purple orbs there. In hard mode, there's an extra one in the middle. Grab those, and now you have the two stagger players come into the zone that the player caught, and you stagger from there. So each party will do this on their respective sides, and it sounds like a lot, but once you get used to it, it's not that bad. So as you can see, we're continuing the mech. So someone caught the orb on the other side, so we're waiting for hours, and they catch their orb. And as soon as he caught his orb, they spacebar out, they start collecting orbs, and I'm one of the staggers along with the Slayer, so we make our way into the circle, and we just stagger the boss. Also, if you find yourself lacking spells, or if you're missing anything, the best thing you can do is throw a whirlwind, and hopefully some spells will come up to where you can assist in the stagger furthermore. But if you are staggering, try saving some of your mid to high stagger skills for this specifically. Now, lastly, we'll go over the stagger pattern. So in hard mode, you want to stay mobile, and you want to dodge the attack patterns when Inanna's down as best as you can, because a lot of this stuff gives you a debuff, which makes you a lot weaker, and it makes the stagger a little bit more challenging to do. So what you're going to want to do is not what I'm doing here. So he's doing a counter move right now. So I'm extremely overgeared for this. So I just kind of went in for it. But normally when he does that counter pattern, do not hit him. So basically throughout this whole thing, your main goal is to just bring his stagger bar down to 0. Normally you would Inanna here, but we don't even have it up yet because we phased him so quickly. So the first time he does this, just feel free, drop Inanna, and you're just free to stagger him as much as possible. When he does this on the second time, generally people want to just weigh and finish the stagger bar extremely quickly. If the boss does have a lot of stacks, say he's getting close to, like 6 or 7 stacks, just be safe and drop the Inanna on top of him to get rid of him, even if it's on the second one. Now, you want to practice dodging these mechanics, because all the mechanics he does in the stagger phase when he's in the shape of a star, he will modify them. So as you can see, the blue laser hits both halves of the map. But yeah, the main tip I have for this is just practice dodging the patterns while you're in this phase, because in hard mode, it gets a little bit tricky because you don't want to get hit by anything because it makes the stagger take longer. Now, when you're about to finish staggering him in hard mode, you don't have to deal with this in normal mode, but in hard mode, he'll shoot out these golden beams. They will silence you, and if you stand in them too long, which is like a second, you'll heal the boss and give him a damage reduction buff. So as you can see, he does the lasers. You want to stay mobile after you finish staggering him, and you can drop all your damage after, but try your best to dodge that. Once again, in normal, you don't have to deal with that. So he has 2 memory mechanics. One's a red one, one's a blue one, and the red one is the one that I'm going to show here. The blue one I have a separate video for, and I'll just leave it in the description below. The best tip I can think of to remember this is just remember what order they're in, I guess, and try and think of a way to remember them. So like for me, I'll say like middle, inside, outside, for example. And even if you do mess up, don't freak out, and just remember the explosion that did hit you, and just remember the one that comes after it, and just not to get chain knocked up, because you can't spacebar off the ground infinitely. So as you can see, I actually make a mistake here. It's the pattern that I got was middle, inside, outside. So after he launches the first pizza pattern, the first ring is going to come up. So when the first ring comes up, as you can see in hard mode, it explodes immediately. In normal mode, you would have still been able to walk out of that. But after you get hit, don't panic. Just get back up, avoid the rings, and the pizza explosions for this, they converge onto one spot. So that's why you want to move in a clockwise or counterclockwise direction constantly while you're doing this mechanic.